G'day ladies and germs, Conor here from C-Dubs Media, back with another video, and today we're doing my full comparison of the Canon R50 camera and the Pixel 7a camera. It's not scientific by any means. First thing is, this is 4K 60 on the Pixel 7a and this is 4K 25 on the Canon R50, and that's as high as they will both go. The Pixel 7a is pretty much all auto mode, but the Canon R50 I'm filming in manual mode. So the Pixel 7a is auto adjusting, so I probably look much brighter and sparklier on this one here. The Canon R50 I've got in manual mode, so I could adjust the ISO here to raise the brightness a little bit indoors, but you can see behind me is outside is blown out. And I think it is a little bit on the Pixel 7a, but not quite as much. So there's an interesting point. I've always liked the dynamic range on smartphones is incredible. Anyway, let's go shoot some photos, and I want as many comments as you can put down below on the differences in the photos. I'm going to try and get them all equal photos, except for the candid streak photography. That'll be a little bit different, a little bit trickier, but let's go check it out. Okay, ladies and germs, here we go with the Pixel 7a 4K 30 frames per second, Canon R50 4K 25 frames per second. They're both on the same tripod, handheld, image stable on, and then Pixel already has image stable. It's pretty much just a given on any smartphone. Full auto mode on the Pixel 7a and manual mode on the Canon R50, which is one of the differences I think is worth pointing out. The Canon R50, you have full control over your image. The Pixel 7a does everything for you. There's a couple of brightness sliders, but it's pretty automatic. Now, as you're going to see through this video, you're going to see, like, I did a lot of photography and I tried to mirror every image. So whatever I shot on the 7a, I shot on the R50. And why did I do that? Because that's the big difference here. I think the Pixel 7a is designed for auto. Point and shoot, pull it out of your pocket, take a photo. The Canon R50 is designed for those who take a bit more of a artistic approach to their work and their photography, and they want to be able to control the image, manipulate the image, and give a desired look that they want. Whereas with the Pixel, you just get what it gives you, which isn't bad. Now, I do want to point out battery life. For a full day of shooting in the city, Pixel 7a used 70% of its 4000 milliamp hour. Canon R50 used 1.5 batteries, and each battery is 1040 milliamp. So the battery life was better overall on the R50 for photography purposes. The Pixel 7a is IP67 water resistant, Canon R50 has no water sealing whatsoever. No weather sealing, no dust sealing, anything like that. I think portability is a big issue when it comes to photography, and you're looking at a difference between a smartphone and a small mirrorless camera. The Canon R50 is very small for a camera, very lightweight, but not as small as the Pixel 7a, which just slips into any pocket. The R50 couldn't really slip it into your pocket, but it is nice and handy to carry around in your bag. Now I think one of the things you will see is, like right now I'm filming in f4.5 on the Canon R50, and you can see the background blur is quite different to that of the Pixel 7a. Everything is in focus on the Pixel 7a. In most of the photos I took and videos, it was really hard to get any background blur, any bokeh, any depth of field. You're stuck with a very flat image. So if you do like a bit of background blur in your images, then you're definitely going to want to look at getting something like a Canon R50 or something similar. This is f4.5, so you can imagine if I had an f1.8 lens on here, you're going to have some massive background blur. On the Pixel 7a, it is actually at f1.8, I think, or f2, something like that, and you have no background blur. Doesn't look very cinematic. Which leads me to my next point of video. On the Pixel 7a you have 30 frames and 60 frames per second. On the Canon R50 you do have PAL and NTSC, so you can choose there. And on the NTSC you get 24, 30 and 60 frames per second and 120. And on the PAL you get 25, 50 and 100. So more options again on the Canon R50. Now some of you might be used to a very HDR look, which is what you're going to get on the Pixel 7a. Very oversaturated, very over sharpened, and on the Canon you're going to get a more flatter image, not as pixelated, not as sharp looking. Now it does look a bit like that in 4K on the Canon, but I really do think that it looks a lot softer, a lot nicer on the human face, and overall the image is more true to life and more pleasing. And that was the case in a lot of the photos I took. A lot of the photos, everything was over sharpened and very digital looking on the Pixel 7a, but it did an amazing job. So you wouldn't be too concerned filming on the Pixel 7a if you're just a point and shoot sort of person. Look, in every photo I took, once I cropped in or zoomed in, there was a lot more detail and a lot more data to work with on the Canon R50. It just had so much better image quality, and the Canon R50 is 24 megapixels on a CMOS sensor. The 7a is 64 megapixels on a lot smaller sensor, so they're actually getting the equivalent of 16 megapixels versus 24 on the Canon R50. And like I said, that was evident in every photo I took. You could punch in on the Canon R50 images and really get a lot more detail and a lot more flexibility with your image. So what do you think from these images throughout the day? I did some street photography, which was quite hard. I was using the camera and the phone at the same time to take the same photo. I looked quite weird doing that in the main street. A lot of people were looking at me funny, but I was doing it to try and prove which camera was better for which situation. So when it comes to saturation, contrast, sharpening, everything is way overdone on the Pixel 7a. Whereas the R50, you get all the flexibility in the world to manipulate your image later in post. But dynamic range on the 7a is better. It just magically corrects everything in camera. So I really do think that's pretty amazing. You can fit, but for photography, the images on the Canon R50 easily twice as good in my opinion, and you're probably going to want to go with something like the Canon R50 for photos. 7a is a bit behind just because of the detail, the over sharpening, and all the problems that you do face with a smartphone sensor. I really do prefer the images coming out of a mirrorless camera. Then I did some landscapes, then I did some slow shutter stuff. I really did try and play around with these cameras to get the best results. And for that slow shutter stuff, I really do think that the camera, the R50, is better. Yes, I do think the Pixel can do it, but it's hit and miss, whereas with the R50 you can dial it in and really nail the results every single time. So I do think it's important to highlight that the Pixel 7a is your auto photographer's dream. It's point and shoot, straight out of your pocket. You don't have to worry about anything. And that's what a lot of people do want. And a lot of people even prefer those images straight out of camera. And for those people, the Pixel 7a is going to be your pick. For me, it's the R50. I want that depth of field. I want that extra detail. I want the flexibility of being able to put on different lenses and to be able to put on like ND filters and microphones, and you can rig out the Canon R50 and you can get a lot of very nice cinematic images and video out of it, whereas with the 7a you get what you get. And when I say you get what you get, I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, have a look, this is a pretty nice image. This is 1080p 30 frames per second, and over here on the Canon it's 1080p 25 frames per second, and it's really quite nice. on the 7A, it's a really nice image. On the Canon R50, it is also a really nice image. It's just very different. Like I said, you have that background blur, that depth of field, and you can change all the settings on the Canon R50 quite easily. I know for me, when I go out doing street photography, I don't use the Pixel 7. If I'm doing sport photography or filming my kids or animals or pets, I'm going to go for the Canon R50 and I'm going to shoot 15 frames per second, 24 megapixel images that I can edit in post later and get really good images out of after editing them. Most of the times I'm going to choose the Canon R50. When would I use the Pixel 7A? Well, when I'm just say going from point A to point B and I don't take my camera with me. Or maybe a quick food photo to share to Instagram. I don't mean this to slag off the 7A. Sort of sounds like I might be, but I'm not. I'm a Pixel fanboy. I love my Pixel phones. 7A is my daily driver. I take it everywhere. I use it for most things, but if I'm purposefully going out to shoot, I'm using the R50 or my Canon R6 Mark II. But this is not that comparison. Anyway, I hope you've seen enough images and video from me on this comparison. For me, R50 every day. For you, maybe the 7A. But maybe this video was a waste of fucking time. I'm not sure. But I really do appreciate you all watching this video. I've enjoyed filming it. I enjoyed going out and doing the photography for it. Hit the like button. And if you've got any suggestions on videos you would like to see on this channel, let me know in the comment section and I'll do what I can to film it. Thank you everyone for watching this video. I really appreciate your time and your eyeballs on my video, and I will catch you in the next one. Check you.